So, good morning. My name is Susie Buck, and I just wanted to touch base with you about more of my story of why. Why do I do what I do? A little bit of a story. I'm going to hit that down, by the way. Bear with me. That's staying in the video, by the way. Um, I have grown up to be the teacher that I wish I had as a kid. And why that is so important to me is because of a few life-changing moments in my childhood. Growing up in a military society, post-Vietnam, well, I don't know if that's ever ended, but women's movement was rolling on its own by then. The civil rights movements, they were rolling on their own. It wasn't quite such a turbulent time when I was growing up, and I grew up in a military society. So I was basically one of maybe five kids in my entire neighborhood that only had one race and one language in their household. I was so lucky that the world came to me and I got to experience so many cultures, so many religions, and it was really easy for me to see culturally what we all have in common because in a time where our world was so turbulent and trying to calm down from our differences, I was actually raised in a society where we had to survive and your neighbor was who you had. But still being in that kind of environment with my uniqueness, I was definitely an outcast. And I'm sure without a doubt, on some level as a kid, you felt like an outcast at some point as well, for whatever the reason. Me, I could talk to animals, I collected rocks, and I could hear things that other people couldn't hear. And I thought that was normal. When I got to be in about fourth grade, I was 9 years old. I learned that not everybody can do that. So that was my little secret magic power that I realized as an adult, everybody actually does have, but has shut it off as a kid. All kids have that power. Hang out with a kid that's under the age of 7 for 10 minutes, you will find their magic. I never gave mine up, but I did shut it down. But at the same token, I was also encouraged to be unique while still being alone, very much alone in my society. I'm extroverted, obviously, but there's an introverted side of me that couldn't relate to other people, and I couldn't understand why other people couldn't relate. And so I went through a time of shutting that part of me down, that magical part of me down, and my talents and gifts, so that I could learn how to be normal, quote unquote, and do what was supposed to be done. And that worked for me. And I think as an adult, we have all, especially as women, learned how to participate in life like we're supposed to. And at some point, our uniqueness kind of gets hidden down in there somewhere, and we kind of lose it. And we all want to be in service, whether we're a mom, a sister, a volunteer, a wife. Let's go for the guys too. Husbands are important, and I know a lot of men that feel this way as well. That they're different, but they're fitting in and they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew that I had special talents and gifts, but I didn't know how to market it. I didn't know what to do with it. So for me, I became a scientist. I actually have a formal education in biology with a minor in outdoor recreation and facilities management. I, because I could talk to animals and I still can, I was the best park ranger in the world, like total Yogi Bear. My programs, just for a brag for a minute, when I did my junior ranger program where kids were dropped off for a couple hours to spend time with me, my whole back row was full of grandparents who had their kids already raised up and they were just hanging out because they had the afternoon for free. They had no kids there. Their kids were adults. Their grandkids were adults, and they were hanging out with me. So that was the biggest compliment in the world, that people get to that age and they find their inner child and they come hang out with me. And we would go on hikes in the woods, and owls in the middle of July, the longest days of the year, would be sitting on a branch at eye level of a 10-year-old in the middle of the daylight just to show themselves. So that's how good I am with what I do. But in the meantime, after about 15 years of doing that and running a huge volunteer program, I got really good and bored with what I was doing. So my husband and my husband retired from the military. I remained military for my whole life, pretty much. And we moved to South Dakota, which is where he's from and where I am now. And We bought a hotel, and for 10 years, I got to use my minor as a facility manager. Rocked that out for 10 years, got bored, and about a year ago, we retired from that and bought 31 acres of land out in rural South Dakota. And I'm going to save that story for another video of what's to become of that. But in the meantime, I had become so good at my job at the hotel that I had extra time. And in about 2013 ish, I got involved in the holistic world again. And one connection led to another. And I got my Reiki certification. I am a Reiki master teacher. And it connected me to the world of holistic medicine in Sioux Falls. And I really wanted to do more with that because it put me in touch with that unique talent that I did as a kid that I had shut down for so long. And the short version of it is in my Reiki group, I met my web designer, Teresa. And at the time, she was starting her own career in the holistic world. And we became office mates and eventually best friends and now business partners because our businesses have evolved into a new world. And we are working together with a whole group of people that are looking for their uniqueness. And it's actually international right now. And my job as an inner light engineer is to work with people one-on-one and in groups that understands that at one point in their life they had a uniqueness and they've lost it and they want to find it again and reconnect it. And I teach what I need to learn because right now my biggest growth is reconnecting with my talents and gifts that I was born with, bringing it forward into everyday life of being a mom, being a volunteer, being a brother, being a cousin, being everything that it is, but still not forgetting who you are. And I do this through private sessions, and I do this through uh, group sessions as well, motivational speaking and things like that. But in the meantime, we're going to edit this part. Uh, my goal is to help you find that part of you that makes you happy, despite it all. My job is not to fix life for you. Nobody can do that for you. My job is to help you navigate life through the chaos a lot more gracefully. And that's what I do.